Succah Daf Tess. How are you all doing? The other day I said a story in Cheer about the holy Yidden of York in England. They were trapped in the castle. It's a long story, but the bottom line is, rather than give themselves up and convert, they decided to commit suicide, and those who didn't and ran out were killed anyway. So I got a number of emails. I'll read three of them. This one is from David Tzvi Vanderveld. He says, Dear Rebelli, I'm a new Talmud and so taken by the shir. P.S. Rebbe is so on target when he says you should stay current and not go back. The Min Daf is incredible for Chazara. The castle where they were was made out of wood. There were about 150 Yidden, and the castle, they say, was burnt down. This is from Ralph Grosskopf. He says, there's a chayrim till this very day, but the chayrim is not to sleep overnight. I've heard, no responsibility for the authenticity, that Reb Leib Gurwitz, Zichrono Livracha, would wake up Bachar when the train passed through York. The flowers planted are daffodils which have 6 petals. Reb Yontiv Joigny, something like that, was a Baal Toisvis who died at Clifford's Tower, a Talmud of the Rabbeinu Tam. He wrote Omnum Kem HaYoitzer that we say on Kol Nidri night. And finally, from David Ansbacher, he's from the Chevra Kedisha, he says he's a Maisa. In the early 80s, Sainsbury Supermarket was building a new store in York, and they found a bunch of kvarim, and they realized it's Jewish bones, and they said it was called the Jewberry Cemetery, and they took these, they reburied them. But he says that the following day, next morning, we heard on the news that the minister had caught fire in the night, and only the oldest part of the building was burned. Incidentally, this part that burned was originally financed by Jew tax, probably paid by these Kedoshim who reburied the day before. Kol Tov, David Ansbacher. Thank you very much. Succah Daf Tess. Brand new Mishnah, says the Mishnah that if a sukkah was built 30 days before Sukkot, and he didn't have in mind that it's for a sukkah, according to Beis Shammai, it's puzzle, and according to Beis Hillel, it's kosher. According to Beis Shammai, it's puzzle because it says in the pasuk, Chag HaSukkos Taseh Lecha Shivas Yomim. So you need a sukkah that's done l'shem Chag for Yantiv. According to Beis Hillel, it's kosher. And what about the pasuk? The pasuk says, is coming to tell us that it's mutter to begin building a sukkah in the middle of Chol Hamoed. And according to Beis Shammai, that's asur. If you built the sukkah already from Pesach time, a half a year before Sukkot, and you did it l'shem sukkah, according to everybody, it's kosher. It says in the pasuk, Chag HaSukkos Shivas Yomim LaShem. It comes to teach us, according to Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, that the wood of a sukkah is asur bahana midoiraisa. In other words, you can't take off a piece of wood from the sukkah on sukkahs and use it as a toothpick, as a baseball bat, as anything. It's issa doiraisa. Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseir says that and explains that the wood of the sukkah is asur bahana like a carbon chagiga. That's the word chag is like a carbon chagiga. When it comes to tzitzis, according to everybody, they have to be made lishma, l'shem the mitzvah of tzitzis. And if you tie them to the garment, shaloi lishma, it's possible because it says in the pasuk, gedilim taseh lach. If they are stolen tzitzis, we learn from the pasuk, va'asu lahem. The machlokes, if you need the weaving, the tviyah also to be lishma. According to Beis Hillel, there's no chiyuv of lishma by a sukkah. By sukkah it says, Chag HaSukkos Taseh Lecha. Not to teach us this concept of lishma, but to tell us that if it's guzzle, it's stolen, the sukkah is possible. Brand new Mishnah. It says in the Mishnah, if a person has a sukkah, he built a sukkah underneath a tree, it's the same halacha as building a sukkah inside a house. In other words, that it's possible if the tree creates more shade than sun. But if the tree has very few leaves, it's chamasa miruva mitzilasa. And you took those leaves and you intertwine them with the schach, they become bottled to the schach, and it's kosher. And we're not concerned, maybe you should make a gzera, perhaps you're not going to intertwine them, you're not going to put them into the kosher schach, and it's kosher. You see the same halacha by hidla segefen v'kitzason. You have a vine that goes in the sukkah and you cut it. And you take the vine and you put the grapes and you put them into the schach. It's kosher. And we're not geyser, maybe you're not going to cut it. Our Mishnah, same halacha l'chayr, but our Mishnah comes to say a chiddush, that you're permitted to build your sukkah below a tree, beneath a tree, lechatchila. Mishnah says that if you build a sukkah on top of another sukkah, sukkah agabi sukkah, the upper one is kosher, the bottom one is possible. And Rabbi Yehuda says, if no one lives on the upper one, the bottom one is kosher. We say, yesh ein l'masayres. We have to take into account how it's written in the Torah. You're right, we read it besukais, but it says besukas. It's written besukas in singular. So it comes to teach us a number of things. One sukkah, not a sukkah underneath another sukkah, and not a sukkah underneath a tree, and not a sukkah inside a house. If the lower sukkah, schach, is chamasam meruba, in other words, it's not good schach, and the upper sukkah is tzilasam meruba, has enough schach, and the upper one is within 20 amas, they are both kosher, because the bottom one doesn't have proper schach, so it's not a real sukkah. If the upper one is above 20 amas, and the bottom one is tzilasam meruba mechamasa, so both of them are possible. We're trying to give cases in every scenario. If the bottom one is tzilasa meruba, and the upper one is chamasa meruba, and they're both within 20 amas, so then the halacha is the bottom one is kosher, and the upper one is possible. If both of them have tzilasa meruba chamasa, they have good enough schach, and both of them are within 20 amas, only the upper one is kosher, and the bottom one is possible. Have a wonderful day.